good afternoon, or I suppose it could be morning or night wherever you're at right now. I want to welcome you to The Crypt with Brian the Writer. Tonight, I continue on with the series of chapters from my novel, Crimson Tassels. I am going to read to you out of Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is entitled, Nice to Meet You, Rita. Pulling out of the parking space in front of their new local hardware store, Elizabeth's phone buzzed. The caller ID indicated it was Tanya, an old roommate from college. After catching up, Tanya asked her how married life was treating her. She smiled at Jack and said, "He still has that new husband smell." Elizabeth Merriweather was born to an urban family. They lived in an apartment on the upscale side of Philadelphia. The Merriweathers were wealthy by most people's standards, and she spent most of her teenage years partying and doing everything she could to make her nanny's life miserable. One night, her parents dropped a bombshell on her that would change her life forever. Boarding school. She was to pack her bags and head for boarding school for the rest of her high school life. It was, as they said, for her own good. She needed to be somewhere she could stay out of trouble and learn how to be a responsible adult. She hated her parents for it, but she did as she was told. There she befriended a shy girl named Angelina. Angelina introduced Elizabeth to her older brother, Jack. Jack was a college student who had a penchant for seeing life through the eyes of a pure academic. She felt bad for him since, when he visited her, he always kept his nose buried in a book or working on homework. Elizabeth finally convinced him to go outside and see the beautiful campus, and they became close friends. Jack tutored Elizabeth on the more difficult subjects, and she kept him from being what she called too bookish. It didn't take long for Elizabeth to feel herself falling deeply in love for the handsome college student. As he drove the car down the road, Elizabeth leaned over a little and said, "I love you so much. You know that?" "Well, I sure hope so," Jack said. "You married me, after all. Tonight, I have something special in mind for you." "Really? Do tell." He let out an exaggerated gulp. She reached her hand into his inner thigh and caressed the crotch of his jeans. "I'd rather show you." His breath became shallow as her fingers found their mark. "Seriously, honey, you're going to make me run this car off the road and kill us both, or I'm going to have to pull into some poor guy's yard and fuck you on the hood. It's hot out here, and the metal would likely burn your ass." Elizabeth threw her head back on the seat's headrest and laughed. "Are you happy?" she asked. "Is this what you really want?" "Yes, honey, it's what I really want." Good. She knew they were only about a 10-minute drive from the house, so she started picking up her magazines and empty soda bottles. From the floor of the car, it would need a good cleaning before the day was through. The first night of their marriage had been spent in an upscale hotel, but the drive took a total of 3 days. They were both exhausted from the open road. Sarah said in her monotone voice, 300 feet and you have reached your destination." "Thanks, Sarah," Elizabeth said, shutting the GPS off. Jack maneuvered the car into the River Rock driveway of the house looming in front of them. It was real. She had to admit, it was even more beautiful than the pictures Rita sent them. The house was 2 stories tall. The lower level had a wraparound porch, which started with a large bay window. They were home. At a time when they were supposed to go on a house hunting trip, Elizabeth came down with a severe flu and had to stay home. Elizabeth trusted Jack's instincts. She could tell the window treatments would need to be replaced. The paint looked like it had seen far better days. Scanning the lower-level windows, she saw shadows of chairs and a table inside. The sunlight, quickly diminishing in the building clouds, hit the front porch. She could imagine herself sitting in the in the gently swaying porch swing on the deck, nursing a newborn. This could be an ideal home. Scanning the top of the house, a movement caught her eye. In the far left window, she thought she saw someone looking out at her, but as quickly as she saw the apparition, it was gone. She felt a sudden chill run up her spine. It abated just as quickly. A plump but fit woman with reddish-silver hair walked around the house. She was wearing a burgundy dress shirt, jeans, and a pair of Charles Taylor lace-ups. Elizabeth regarded the woman for a moment, and then smiled. Rita was the perfect realtor for them, a touch of class with a fun streak. "Hi, Rita," Elizabeth said. Rita Stimson was a hard-working country realtor in an area where no one wanted to move to. It was a difficult living, but she liked doing it. This was her hometown, and she loved it. "Jack and Elizabeth, welcome home. I have a bottle of Chardonnay and a case of beer in the fridge for you. I also picked up a few things from the store for the first night. Pasta, bread, and some sauce. I figured you two would be busy enough the first few days, am I right?" "Thank you so much, Rita," Elizabeth said. "We stopped by the hardware store and picked up a few things, too. The dumpster arrives soon, and we can start throwing things out." "Well, don't go hog wild. I've got people who might be willing to buy some of it. Mostly just the big furniture." Jack moved in for a hug, but Rita waved him off and immediately wrapped her arms around Elizabeth. "Ladies first, Jack." Elizabeth gave in to Jack's wishes into buying a home in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't her first choice, but it would do for now. She made it clear the house would have to be gutted and updated. In her own words, she'd decorate the hell out of her new home. She wasn't planning on taking a new job right away, so she would have nothing but time to make it their home. At their wedding reception, the cards overflowed with cash, and she could buy till her heart was content. Based on the photos and the condition of the outside of the house, Gulliver's Hardware would be getting a huge influx of money. "Ah, the Gullivers are great people. You get to know them, and they'll take good care of you." "Yes," Elizabeth said. "I think we're sitting next to them in church on Sunday. Is Adelbert really his first name?" "You know, I'm not sure," Rita said. "He's always just been Mr. Gulliver. Let me show you the house. Jack, do you mind if I take your bride for the grand tour?" "Oh, no, you don't," Jack said. "Husbands first, Rita." Jack lifted Elizabeth effortlessly into the air and carried her towards the door of their new home. Drunk with delicious joy, she was overcome by the smell of the corn growing in the fields, the dirt of their driveway, and the smell of her husband's sweat. She giggled in ecstasy. Rita, having clued in on what was happening, ran ahead of them with the speed of a woman half her age. She pushed open the door and moved to the side to let Jack in, doing her best impression of a doorman. Elizabeth looked into his eyes. Jack was handsome when they first met, but as they got a little older, Jack became distinguished looking. The boyish immaturity he had when they first met seemed to give way to a more sophisticated countenance. Jack set her down and gave her one of those deep kisses only people truly in love can give. It was passionate, it was hot, and it made Elizabeth's heart beat in a way nothing else could. Rita said, clearing her throat. "Oh, Rita, sorry, forgot you were there," Elizabeth said. "Jack, honey, why don't you start bringing our stuff in, and I'll try to figure out what we have to do to make this place livable for tonight." Elizabeth watched Jack walk out the door, back toward the open trunk of the car. Over his head, she could see the darkening sky. The clouds, no longer distant, threatened to make the task of unloading the car more difficult if they waited too long. "Don't worry. This time of year we get lots of those storms," Rita said, seeing her concern. "They roll through every few days. Once it passes, everything will be fine. But that does remind me, I need to show you where your cellar is." Elizabeth gave Rita a quizzical look. "Cellar? What's that for?" Rita chortled. "Let's put it this way. If you hear a long siren that doesn't seem to be stopping, you grab Jack and your baby and get into the cellar as quickly as you can." "Rita, I don't have any children." "I know. Just seeing if I could trip you up. You know, maybe a bun in the oven?" "Oh, gosh, no." Elizabeth turned beet red at the insinuation. They hadn't been trying to get pregnant, choosing to learn how to be a couple first, before adding a child to the equation. Okay, a girl has to ask, doesn't she?" "I suppose so," Elizabeth smiled. "Well, let's see what we have to work with." Jack had seen the house in person, but she had only seen pictures up till now. The photos really didn't do it much justice. Although dated, the house still had a regal presence. In the front of her, a dark wooden staircase stretched upward like a luxurious mahogany tongue. The rails must have been handmade. A simple runner ascended to the second story, which had definitely seen better days. She pulled out a notebook and made a notation about replacing the carpet. To her right was a formal living room. Although major structural repairs had all been addressed, the furniture hadn't been replaced. Most of the furniture was in the Victorian style. Depression-era glass decorated a few of the shelves. Although it had a certain charm, it was definitely not her thing. But it would suffice until the new furniture showed up. As she suspected, the window treatments would all have to go. Finding a place to buy new ones, however, would require a little work. Seemingly reading her mind, Rita offered, "Joliet. If you want to shop for window treatments, you have to drive to Joliet. Maybe next week I can run you out there. I need some things anyway. About a 45-minute drive." The living room led immediately into a formal dining room. A huge walnut dinner table took up most of the space. It looked like the deck of an old ship. An extravagant piece, and stood in sharp contrast to the rest of the furniture in the house. In the corner of the room sat a large china hutch with an abandoned card table sitting behind it, seemingly forgotten. Elizabeth looked at Rita. "Maybe we should hang on to this dinner table. What do you think?" "Well, I have a buyer who's willing to pay top dollar for it. Plus, you won't even have to ship it. He'll come get it himself." "How much?" Elizabeth hadn't given much thought about the fact that she could sell any of these items that only a few hours ago she didn't even know existed. $2,000 for the table and chairs, minus my 20% commission, of course. "Rita, darling, you're a born saleswoman," Elizabeth said. "That's a good amount of money. I guess we'll take it." As they made their way toward the kitchen, Elizabeth felt an uncontrollable urge to look at the folding table. She resisted the temptation, choosing to run her finger through the dust along the top of the thing. Suddenly, she was gripped with a feeling of sadness and loss, feeling cold inside. An image gripped her. An arm lay across the table's nylon top. Blood covered it, and the hand lay outstretched, trying to grasp at something unseen. "Elizabeth!" Rita grabbed her by the arm. "Sorry you were off in space somewhere for a moment." "Oh, yeah." Her face turned red and felt hot with embarrassment. "It's all the excitement. I'm better now. Shall we continue?" Off the dining room, a door led to the kitchen, and another which led to a mudroom. The kitchen was huge. The appliances, though newer than the rest of the house, had few redeeming qualities. Elizabeth decided all of them would hit the dumpster as soon as suitable replacements could be ordered. The countertops were Formica, which was popular with remodelers in the 80s. Elizabeth made another notation in her notebook to order new countertops, or more precisely, order them as soon as she could convince Jack to let her order them. Jack came from a poor family. In college, he sought scholarships and student loans. Although he was a hard worker, he always seemed to work twice as hard for everything, once to earn the money, and the second time to earn the grades. Elizabeth's family dined with governors and presidents. Her grandfather was a self-made millionaire at a time when people weren't likely to become millionaires. He insisted every one of his kids go into the military or the Peace Corps. Out of all the values preached in their family, service was one of the most important. They didn't tolerate slackers. The night her parents met his for the first time was especially tense. However, Jack's father presented Elizabeth's parents with a bottle of wine. He was deeply worried about offending Elizabeth's parents. It was a wine from Virginia's Hannah Dog Vineyards, the owner of which Jack's father was good friends with. At the moment of presentation, Elizabeth's father took the wine, read the label, and immediately laughed out loud at the, as of yet, unspoken irony. Elizabeth's father had been an early investigator in the vineyard and knew the family very well. It was a coincidence, but one which immediately cemented a friendship. The mudroom was a simple affair. Clay tile floor, dingy walls, covered with a hideous wallpaper, which had been once vibrant oranges and yellows. It looked like a scene out of a 70s commercial. Rita hadn't been joking when she said the previous owner had left everything. Lined up like soldiers on a small runner set against the wall sat a collection of shoes. At the end nearest the door, 2 boots had been lazily left on the small throw rug. One boot laid on its side while the other sat straight up. Elizabeth couldn't help but feel a momentary sense of loss for the people that lived here. She wondered what happened to them, what became of their hopes and dreams. Based on the furniture, she had to guess the couple who lived here were older. Were they still alive? Did they miss their old house? Was it just too big for them? Were they murdered? Elizabeth immediately dismissed the idea. What made her think that? It seemed odd, an oddly random thought to go through her head. Rita and Elizabeth made their way upstairs. On the walls there were drawings and photos of places neither one of them could recognize. "Rita," Elizabeth felt a twinge of apprehension asking the question, "what happened to the people who lived here?" Rita stopped for a moment at the top of the stairs. Elizabeth thought she saw a moment of panic flash across the normally optimistic face of a realtor, but it was gone just as quickly as the person she swore she saw in the window. I'm not really sure. I'll see if I can find out. Elizabeth had no reason to believe Rita would lie to her, but she got the sense that Rita did know something, and was hesitant to tell her. And here's your main bathroom. There's a half-butt bathroom on the bottom floor. Half-butt? Yeah, it's just a toilet. You literally have to back into it. The upstairs bathroom made up for the small stature of the one on the first floor. It had a big, beautiful clawfoot bathtub that could easily fit 3 people and have room to spare. For a moment, Elizabeth saw herself and Jack making passionate love in it, immediately shaking off the idea as she saw herself having to sop up all the water afterwards. It had 2 large wash basins with brass appliances. It was by far the fanciest room in the house. Why is this room so much more, I don't know how to put it, less like a funeral home? Rita offered. Oh, Rita, how grim. Well, but accurate. So why? Rita thought about it for a moment. I believe there was a brother in the family that wanted to refurbish the house in the 90s to sell it, but he only got as far as this room. I think his name was Paul. He went a little crazy. Things finally got so bad they had to have him committed. It's too bad. He was a good carpenter before he lost his marbles. This room is astounding. By the way, I do have someone who would love to buy that tub. Over my naked, wet, and drunk on Chardonnay ass will sell my bathtub. To illustrate her point, she climbed into the tub and sat down, crossing her arms over herself. Both women laughed. I kind of figured, but to be fair, I would rather see Jack's naked, wet ass. He's a keeper. Where did you find that gorgeous hunk? I'll trade Hal for him any day. Elizabeth smiled at Rita. She'd quickly grown on her. Oh, stop. Besides, you train in your husband, and then you have to train a new one. Who'd want that? That's true. Hal's like an old dog or a worn-out sweater, comfortable and reliable. I can leave him on the couch in the morning and be damn sure he'll be there in the afternoon. But I've had 33 years to break him in. You kids are just getting started. Shall we move on to the bedrooms? Elizabeth rose from the tub to a cloud of dust. She's decided she would clean the bathroom, kitchen, and bedroom today. After that, she could work on the rest of the house at her leisure. Jack suddenly appeared at the top of the stairs. What are you girls talking about? You know, girl things, Elizabeth said, putting her hand on Jack's chest. Comparing husbands, what kind of new curtains to buy, and how much work I'm going to need to do before I can break your spirit and you become like an old dog or a worn-out sweater. He shook his head. I really need to rebuild that barn out back. It'll give me a place to hide. See, Rita said. He's already looking for a place to retreat to. Jack's coming along nicely. A couple of nights of great sex and he'll be almost housebroken. Jack panted and put up his hands like a dog begging for a treat. He kissed Elizabeth on the cheek, not check. Where do you want the cleaning stuff, babe? Probably the kitchen for now. Let us finish our tour and I'll come help. You got it, Jack said. He turned away but stopped for a second. Hey, Rita, did you happen to bring us any coffee? She gave him a thumbs-up sign. Yep, cabinet next to the fridge. I got you a loaner coffee pot from my house. You're going to want to rinse the dust off. There's a bottle of dish soap on the counter, too. Seriously, Rita, I have no idea what we would do without you, Jack said. He ran downstairs to the kitchen. He's good, Elizabeth. You're lucky. I see lots of people come out here with the wrong attitude. The wind, corn, and quiet drive him crazy in short order. You two will do fine. The bedroom was a sprawling affair. It had a door into the bathroom on one side and a walk-in closet on the other. The sleigh-style bed looked like something out of the 1920s deluxe suite from an upscale hotel. It was massive. A new king-size mattress, delivered that morning before they arrived, lay on the bed encased in plastic. Elizabeth was momentarily speechless. It was at once so enormously beautiful, also completely out of style with their tastes. And how much were we going to get for the bed frame? $1,500. Minus 20% commission, right? You catch on quick, Rita clapped her hands together. You know, once you get settled here, I could use some help with my small liquidation business. I'll split the commissions with you. It's tempting. I might just take you up on that offer. There are 2 bedrooms, but they are typical boy bedrooms. If I were you, I'd leave those for last. but you might also want to hurry so you can have that baby's room ready, Rita said, her voice trailing off. Elizabeth shook her head. Oh, for Pete's sake, Rita. I'm not pregnant. Give it a rest. Okay. Tell you what. I know Jack has to report for work tomorrow. I'll come by in the morning and run you around town. By the way, are you going to buy another car? Elizabeth looked over her shoulder into the hallway, checking to see if Jack was still downstairs. She could hear him whistling as he moved things around in the kitchen. The day after next, Jack gets a big surprise. I brought him a truck. 4-wheel drive, the whole shebang. He doesn't know it's coming. Wow, hell would kill me if I did that. He'd still drive it, but he would kill me. Well, it's a belated wedding present. Besides, I'm not going to be stuck here without a car. Rita smiled at Elizabeth. Good thinking, girl. Okay, shall we go downstairs? Actually, Rita, I think I'm going to stay here for a few more minutes. I want to look around a bit. Well, sweetie, Rita said, giving her a big hug. It's your house. Make it your home. I'll see you tomorrow. I have to go feed Hal. Remember to feed and water your husband regularly. Rita left the room, and Elizabeth could hear her new friend descend the stairs. With a few words to Jack, the front door opened and closed. Watching her out the window, the taillights of Rita's car blazed red against the darkening world outside. Just then, a few drops of rain hit the window of the bedroom. It was the same window. She was sure she'd seen the figure in earlier. The raindrops made the world blur like a life-size watercolor painting. As Rita's car turned left onto the highway in front of the house and disappeared toward town, the sky opened up into a torrential rainstorm. The driveway became a minefield of mud puddles. Elizabeth could have sworn she heard something behind her. Turning, she expected to see Jack standing there, but instead she saw nothing. A cold draft suddenly overtook her. Shivering against the sudden chill, she wrote in her notebook, "Fine, sources of drafts." Thank you very much. That was Chapter 3 of my novel, Crimson Tassels. Feel free to go back and listen to the other chapters, available on YouTube and on Patreon. You can purchase Crimson Tassels and my other novels on my website, www.briannowak.com, or on Amazon. You can just type in Brian Nowak with a Y. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.